Previously, on the beginning of time. I'm Lithaen, I'm a fire spirit, and you're both being imprisoned for life. This is hardly fair. Okay, I'm letting you out, but you can't tell anybody. The government, the Gods of Karritios, they're controlling everyone. We're going to infiltrate Section 0, a secret government facility, and stop them. The Gods of Karritios, all powerful beings who created Karritios 100,000 years ago. Nobody's ever seen them. The Minister of War, the Elaborator, they're here. Doctor, so glad you could make it. The Enlightenment shall begin. The Beginning of Time, Chapter 4, by Charlie Buckley. The Gods of Karritios resided gently upon thrones of stone, towering above anyone who observed them as gods. Truth be told, the Gods of Karritios didn't know who they were. They had a beginning, they had an end. They possessed power, but no purpose to utilise their power. They were worshipped, they knew that much, but still obeyed one master. Or should they say, Elaborator. A slit of glaring light pierced the oblivion-like hall, shooting through seemingly eternal blackness, yet still failing to reach the gods. A chorus of ominous creaks sounded, and a silhouette emerged from outside. The figure stood straight backed, tall and slender, with long dark hair which would have flowed along his pale neck had it not been for the moist product which he slathered it in. As he strode, his strides were long and gracious, panther-like, and as he drew closer, piercing blue eyes contrasted by pale skin glared at the gods as the Elaborator came to a halt and stared at the centremost god even through the blackness. Elaborator, the centremost god spoke. His voice was powerful and commanding, a drone which sent pebbles flying from their crevices and dust to sweep off purple torch brackets in a swift motion. What is it you require? I require nothing, replied the Elaborator, slightly tinged accent rolling off his tongue laced with malice. I simply mean to ask you if the simulation is continuing as planned. The rightmost god spoke, a slightly more weakened voice but still powerful nonetheless. The simulation is going to plan. The prisoners are being held in Section 0, and the Doctor and Turlough have just arrived on this planet. The Elaborator's eyebrows knotted, droplets of sweat forming on them, as he balled his fists, knuckles turning bleach white, and screamed, When you detect that they have arrived, you inform me immediately! You may be gods, but I command you! How long have they been here? 300 seconds, sir. The rightmost god spoke, voice meek and shallowed. Okay. The Elaborator spoke, remaining as calm. I shall order the prisoners to lay a trap. The Doctor and Turlough shall be transported into a cavern, the Doctor drugged. He shall jump into a pool and Turlough will follow. They shall emerge in the city's outer rim before being captured and imprisoned by a simulation I shall name Lithaen. They shall escape, Turlough distracted, and then the Doctor shall enlighten the Minister. Gods, when my glorious creation is enlightened, cancel the simulation. Yes, Elaborator. The three gods chanted in unison. Good, drawled the Elaborator, a sinister chuckle decorating his words. They'll never see me coming. I know what you're doing, Elaborator, the Doctor spoke, standing straighter and brushing a lazy sweep of his blonde hair from his face. You want me to... The Doctor paused as he glanced at the Minister of War, laying on the hospital bed, organs pulsating and ribcage splintered. You want me to release some regeneration energy onto that orb? He pointed toward the glowing orb resting upon the pedestal, thrumming and pulsating all the while. And then you will replace his heart with the orb. The Minister will be more powerful than ever before, and you shall dominate the universe together. The Elaborator smiled, a sickened, twisted grin which crawled across his face maliciously. He raised his arms, lavish suit shifting, and clapped his hands thrice, before resting one hand upon the Doctor's shoulder. Very good, Doctor. That is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, as you just said, regenerate. I refuse, proclaimed the Doctor. Yes, I refuse. For most of this life, since I've had this face, I've been weak. I've been gullible, and admittedly I've been submissive. Not today. He adjusted the celery perched crookedly upon his blazer's lapel. Cold silence dominated. Only the raspy breaths of the Minister could be heard, accompanied slowly by the long drip of blood upon linoleum. Well, Doctor. The Elaborator's face turned rigid, the gleam shining in his eye, dullening slightly. He strode to a metallic rack, instruments clanging all the while, and held a simple gun. No advanced technology, no magic, just a slate-grey gun which he clutched. If you refuse to regenerate for me, I shall force you to! The Doctor's screams rang through the room as the Elaborator held the gun in one limp hand and pulled its trigger. Is that Section 0? Queried Turlough, crouching behind a ramshackle barrier of corrugated iron, tinged with rust. His fiery red hair sweeping across his face, he craned his neck to Lithaen, who resided next to him, licks of flame dancing from golden hair. The pair glanced down at the city from the outer rim, a wave of nausea-inducing vertigo overcoming Turlough. Most buildings had ended by this point, only the most enormous of skyscrapers protruding from this chaotic world. The building in question appeared to be the biggest, thousands of floors flowing downward toward the city's heart, right between themselves and the endless chasm they lay below. At the top of the building, gunmetal panels formed a gargantuan circular roof, which was dotted with hatches, buttons and aerials. A larger trapdoor resided in the roof's centre, a shiny steel with a sheen of blue reflecting from it. It sure is, Lithaen murmured, staring fixedly below herself, eyes widened and feet rapping quickly upon the stone floor of the corridor the pair rested. Okay, but we aren't seriously going to enter through the trapdoor, are we? That's a trap waiting to happen. You can't have trapdoor without trap. Lithaen raised an eyebrow. While your logic is flawless, Mr. Turlough, that's the only way we can get in. If it is a trap, we'll kill the guards. No can do, Lithaen. Me and the Doctor, we're a pair of galactic goody two-shoes. We don't kill people. You're not going to be, Turlough. The entire place is protected by androids. Oh, okay then. How are we going to get there anyway? That's about 100-meter jump. We'd never make it. Lithaen's eyes widened. Really? I thought everyone could jump 100 meters. Turlough tutted and looked away. Very funny. Seriously, Lithaen, how are we going to get there? I didn't make you take this bag for nothing, did I? Lithaen gestured to the huge rucksack which weighed upon Turlough's back, causing his spine to contract and muscles to strain. Yes, about that. Turlough winced and continued. Why is it so heavy? I doubt yours is as heavy as this. Lithaen brushed a golden lock from her face. Oh, that's because it isn't. You have the grappling guns, I just have the blasters. Turlough rotated and manoeuvred himself, and slung the bag off his back, the zip ripping across the silence eerily. Inside the bag rested 2 guns, painted a deep crimson, each with a tri-hook grapple inside, sheen of blue light reflecting from them. He reached inside and passed one to Lithaen, then held one himself and threw the bag to one side. Limbs clicking, the pair stood, straight-backed, and holstered the grappling guns, grapples becoming taut, before pulling triggers with a click. Coils of wire shot out, and resounding clangs echoed deeply as they latched onto notches in the roof. Turlough and Lithaen, white-knuckled hands on guns, ascended themselves onto the ramshackle barriers. The pair leaned back slightly. Are you ready? A soft breeze blew Turlough's hair from his face as he craned his neck to look at Lithaen. She turned to him. If we wait until we're ready, Turlough, we'll be waiting for the rest of our lives. In unison, the pair sprung their legs and leaped over the abyss. 2 clangs sounded as bullets ricocheted from a metal blood-soaked tray which the Doctor held. A dented mess took its place. Don't think I'd give in that easily, exclaimed the Doctor as he threw the tray to one side and sprinted toward the Elaborator. The Doctor's hand straightened and he stabbed at the Elaborator's side with his hand. He yelped and keeled, the grip on his gun releasing somewhat. The Doctor raised his foot, and with all the energy he'd retained, slammed his foot upon the gun. It snapped into mere components. The Doctor crouched gently and collected minuscule bullets in his hand. The Elaborator's whines fell silent, and his black hair fell limply from its gel-based prison. His eyes closed. The Doctor clenched his jaw and winced slightly, before turning to the still shackled Minister upon the hospital bed. You know, Minister, being a man who abhors violence, I rather enjoyed that, didn't you? The Minister remained silent. Well, explained the Doctor, we Time Lords, we do have a respiratory bypass system, don't we? He'll be awake in a few minutes. The Doctor craned his neck, removing his gaze from the assortment of knives and swords upon the shelves, to look at the Minister. Veins of a deep black writhed around his hands, and his muscles strained. The shackles holding him to the hospital bed were breaking. A sheen of sweat lined his face, highlighted green from the dingy bulb above them. The Minister let out a scream as he tore through the bonds holding his hands, an echoing crack following. Minister, you don't have to do this, stuttered the doctor, taking clumsy steps backwards, tripping over his feet numerous times. You don't want to do this, Minister. You've been driven insane and you have no choice. But the Enlightenment hasn't happened yet. Your transformation into the Minister of Wat isn't even done yet. The Minister stopped. The doctor followed and met the Minister's eyeline, a single tear welling in his eye and falling to the ground with a light splash. The Minister gazed deeply into the doctor's eyes, trying to remember some form of semblance of who he was. Minister of War no longer, spoke the doctor, removing his fedora and resting it gently on the counter. We are the Doctor, and we save people. We protect the people of the universe who can't protect themselves, fight for civilizations and empires. We're heroes, Doctor. A small smile lined the doctor's face, and the minister, for a flicker, smiled back, eyes crinkling at the sides, reminiscing about his past lives, before the minister raised his armoured hand and ripped his heart from his open chest cavity. Blood of crimson sprayed from severed arteries and veins. The minister's gaze turned steelier once more, eyes drying. He dropped the heart to the ground with a sickening squish, and a pulsating, thrumming sound emanated from the minister's own hand. A writhing, twisting ball of black energy squirmed in it, almost an entity of its own. His blood-soaked hand raised, black energy twisting fiercely. The minister began to speak. My enlightenment shall occur. His voice was cold, merciless, and deathly, a whisper yet a scream, contorted with rage, disguised as calm. The deep resound of his voice carried throughout the room, and likely the prison corridor beyond. No! Yelled the doctor. We were so close! I know you're in there, Doctor. I know you are. Resist the torture the Elaborator's been putting you through, and help me. We can work as a team, as friends. The minister plunged his hand forward, tendrils of darkness mere inches from the doctor's face. The doctor wiped his brow and smiled slightly. I know how you die, Minister. The minister faltered. His steely gaze was replaced with curiosity. His hand dropped and no sound could be heard, except the still continuous splash of blood on the ground. Tell me, the minister commanded. You die from rage, Minister, the doctor explained, pacing around the room. You set up another elaborate scheme to kill me, and we end up revealing your creation to me. You take me around your mind, your memories. You end up so broken, so enraged and so conflicted that you dissolve. You die. I always thought of you as the villain, Minister, but you aren't. The Elaborator is, and together we can help stop him, revert the course of your future, stop you becoming enlightened, and stop you from dying. The chorus of stone on blood stopped as the minister raised a metal-plated hand. Deal, the minister announced. The doctor, a grin seemingly plastered to his face, shook the minister's hand. They locked eyes as the Minister of War became the Doctor once more. And that was the beginning of Time Chapter 4 by Charlie Buckley, me. I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. That was an absolute pleasure to write and record. So yes, I will see you on Thursday for a very Marvel-related video, maybe or maybe not to do with Loki. And I shall see you next Saturday for the beginning of Time Chapter 5, the epic conclusion to this story. I wonder what will happen. See you then, everyone, and goodbye.